Now, what you see before you is just an Indian woman who has been through the ups and downs of life for many years. Now, I was born into an enormous amount of money. By the time I was born, I was the third child. My father was a very well-known lawyer, very successful, etc., etc. At 15 and a half, what did I learn about life? That I couldn't go to school every day by car, a chauffeured car with a gunman, they used to call them, which is basically personal security officers taking me to school. I learned to use the school bus. Anyway, I was lucky. I was a very, very good student. So I topped my school and I was fortunate to get admission into St. Stephen's. We were the first batch of girls in 1975. But by that time, my family had moved back from Delhi to Chennai. And my mother made me promise that, well, once you cross graduation, you come back to Chennai. I went back to Chennai. I got married pretty early. I had 2 lovely children. Then I really hit pay dirt. I learned what it means to stand up for oneself and to stand on one's own feet. These are things that I don't normally talk about in public, but I have to talk about it today if I am to tell you all exactly what life can be, the ups and downs, and why you should never give up. My husband became an alcoholic. He died after about 4 years of really deep alcoholism, which in this country, you know, we don't accept things like this. And I'm putting these in inverted commas. You don't say that you have an alcoholic in the family, because what will people think? We are too worried about what others will say to be really dealing with the most important problems of your life. Eventually, he passed away very young. I was left with 2 young kids, 2 daughters. My younger daughter was about 5 years old. My elder one was 10 years old. The younger one hardly knew her father because he had been in and out of hospital from the age of when she was 2 years old. By that time, I was more or less convinced that, well, I could make it. I could do it. It's not going to be easy, but I could do it. My mother, who had come to stay with me for about 1.5 years during that very hard period, she died. And one of the things she told me before she died was that never ask anybody for any favors, regardless of who they may be. Children, husband, in-laws, brother, sister, nobody. Don't imagine it's going to be easy. But you are an extraordinarily well-educated young girl. Stand on your own feet. It will be hard. The first year or 2 will be very hard. But if you can cross that, nobody will be ever able to stop you. She was right. At that time, I was very resentful that what is she talking about? You know, everybody in the family is doing so well. Why can I not go and ask for help? But she was absolutely right. Eventually, when she passed on, after that, I was telling you about my brother. He died very early. He died of acute myeloid leukemia when I was about 41. I was nowhere near politics. Around the age of about 28, 29, when I was wallowing in self-pity, a very good friend of mine told me that, what on earth is wrong with you? What the hell are you doing with yourself? You have so much compared to what a lot of people, millions of other people in the world, in the country, etc. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and stand up. I mean, what are you doing? You're drowning in self-pity, which is ridiculous. Do something for others. You have the capacity to do it. You have the reach, the contacts, everything. You have a roof over your head. What on earth are you doing with your life? Again, I didn't like it, but he was absolutely right. So I started an NGO. And at that time, I went to a lot of people saying, what sort of work should I do? And I met a very interesting IS officer who, by the way, was later on, went to jail for corruption. But he too gave me some very sort of interesting advice. That was in 1991 was the time when the HIV epidemic had hit India. Infection rates were spiraling, and that was not the time when HIV/AIDS was fashionable as it is now. So he said, why don't you start work in this field? And you know, for the first 6 months, everywhere I went, people would say, oh, you from your family? Oh my God, you're working with sex workers? And I said, yeah, you know, they're actually very nice people. So I started work in that, and I found my niche. I did extraordinarily well. My NGO made a lot of, it made a very good name for itself. I set up the first project in India, which was run for 5 years by me and then handed over to the community, where we worked with the LGBT community. lesbian, gay, transgender, transsexual, bisexuals, everybody. Some of them are still my very good friends. Now, after that, I was very happy in my work, and I was consulting for all the big donors throughout the world, earning a lot of money, by which time I had enough self-confidence to know that I could make it. Then my brother went and kicked the bucket. The stupid man was at the head of, at the pinnacle of his career, but he smoked like a fish and he didn't look after his health. He was gone in 4 months. Acute myeloid leukemia, if it's not detected early enough, kills you very fast. And then there was this huge pressure put on me to join politics. I'm not a good politician. I'm too blunt. I'm too I don't wear big bindis. I don't, I don't subscribe to the normal political sort of thing. And I am too frank. I say what I think. I mean, now I've learned after many years in politics to keep my mouth shut sometimes, but for the most part, I can't. So nobody expected me to do well. After coming into politics, there are many things that I learned. One is that stop saying sorry, for being yourself. There's too much expected of Indian men. Like the young boy who spoke before me, women are now just fed up of being called, a master at everything, being perfect in everything, the perfect mother, the perfect wife, sister, daughter, blah, 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 but not the perfect woman or human being. And then, after doing a lot of work, I was made when Venkaiah Naidu was the president of the party, he made me secretary of the party, national secretary. He said, you speak so many languages, if you are willing to travel, work. So I was very happy with it because it meant I was traveling to all parts of India. And I learnt an enormous amount about this country and its women specifically. In 2014, when the BJP came to power, I was made the chairperson of the National Commission for Women. Now, what I realized was how little credit we give to Indian women. We are there everywhere. This is a room full of young girls and boys. I'm not talking about this 10% of Indian population, which I actually call very, very privileged. I'm talking about the ordinary Indian woman who's struggling to get educated, who's struggling to get some sort of nutritious meal once a day, who does her housework, who does her homework in school and college, who looks after home, hearth, everything and never gets credit for it. The thing I realized was that Indian women are today tired of this burden. We want to break out of it. I have a very, very good friend who had a lot of problems in her marriage about after 10 years into the marriage, and she said that, look, unless I stand on my own feet, I'm never going to be able to succeed in life. She's now went on to become a very, very successful and very wealthy entrepreneur. And she once said that, I can't cook for nuts. She hates cooking. And she says, yeah, but I have 2 grown-up kids who are not in the least undernourished. So why does a woman only have to cook? Why can't we break out of the mold? A lot of things that stood me in very good stead through my life was what my father had taught me. My father had taught me what this young boy had talked about, that you know your rights, yes, which is fine, everybody should know their rights. But for God's sake, learn what your duties should be. Whatever duty you want to fulfill, as a mother or a daughter or as a human being or as a citizen, whatever, doctor, journalist, engineer, actor, whatever it is, learn to do well at it. He also said, never stop questioning. If you think somebody says something to you that you don't feel is quite right, call them out. Maybe you lose that job or that contract. Maybe they will not like you and will not stay in touch with you, but it doesn't matter. You've been true to yourself and you won't keep questioning yourself all the time and waste your time on it. He also taught me never to look back. All of us have failures in our lives. Nobody, none of the people who will stand here talking to you will be always a success. We've all failed pretty regularly. That is not what makes a person a success, not failing. What makes you a success is when you come to terms with your failure and learn to put it behind you. Appa, my father used to say that Raja Gopalachari had told him that, you can't walk forward if you keep looking backward. You'll trip and fall over your own feet. That's true of anything in life. And you all are young people. As has been said before me, 65% of India's population today is below the age of 30. As you all move forward in your life, whatever you choose, Don't doubt yourself, don't question yourself, trust your instincts. I'm an Indian, I'm a woman, and I keep telling everybody I'm khichdi. I don't know what caste I am. My father was a mixture of Saraswat Brahmin and a Tamilian, I think they are Kshatriyas, Gaundas, very, very rich, wealthy landlords, very, very rich, wealthy landlords. My mother was a Bengali Brahmin. I grew up in Chennai and in Delhi. So what am I? I don't know. When, in school you have to fill in a thing saying caste, my father used to put NA. So when my elder daughter had to give her 10th standard exam, I put NA and gave it to the school. She was studying in a Christian school, Church Park, which is Presentation Convent, Chennai. Principal got very upset. She called me to the school and said, Madam, she didn't know how to say it. How could she say? I said, but I don't know what caste she is. My husband is from Trichy, he's some caste, I'm some other caste, I don't even know what caste. What do you want me to put? She said, I don't know, but unless you fill it in the form, she's not going to give the 10th standard exam. The rules are that. I was outraged. I gave her a lecture on, how caste is bad and stuff. She said, I agree, but you have to get me the certificate. So I told my brother, what do I do? He said, oh, just go to the Tahsildar. So I went to the Tahsildar in Egmore, Chennai, and he looked at me and said, Madam, what is your name? I had never changed my maiden name. My maiden name is Kumaramangalam, it remained that. So he said, I am from Salem, madam, which is where my family comes from. You all are all backward caste. Fine. So I said, give me the damn certificate, that's all I care about. He gave me the certificate, she gave her exams, did quite well. We never used the reservation and bid because we didn't need it, we didn't think about it. About 5 years after that, when my elder daughter was actually studying in Pune in ILS, my father-in-law happened to see it. He was outraged. He said, oh, what did you do? We are forward caste. How could you say we are backward caste? So I had to soothe him down, which I did. But again, I never regretted what I did because I had to do it to get the job done. Eventually he understood, he calmed down and all that. The whole thing is that don't doubt yourself. It doesn't matter what people brand you as. Ultimately, what is inside and here, these are the two things that matter the most. My father taught me another thing, that when you sign anything, read the damn paper. He would say blast it. Damn was a bad word in those days. He would say read every line. Once you have signed it, you are responsible for what you have signed. Whether you go to a police station or you're just writing a letter or you're sending, today it's text, SMS, WhatsApp, all of that. Read it before you sign it. Whether it's your own husband or child or father or mother or best friend giving it to you, read the damn piece of paper. Because once you've signed on it, that means you've signed off it, that you agree with everything that's written down there. Never make the mistake of not signing it. Again and again, when victims used to come to us with complaints at the National Commission of Women, I would tell them that when you go to a police station, ask for a copy of the FIR before you sign it and receive it. Sorry. Most people in this country don't even know that when you go to make a first information report, the police are supposed to give you a copy. And you're supposed to sign it. Only then can they even start the process of making a charge sheet, which is eventually what goes if you want to go, has to go before the court, if you want to take the matter forward. Most of us don't know it. Now, I'd like to tell you all of this. So, especially to the young girls, I tell you, don't be afraid. If you feel anybody is taking a liberty with you that you do not want them to take, whatever it is, psychological, physical, social, economic, protest. Raise your voice. There is one rule about bullies. When you make a noise, they get scared. They get warned. Most of them are cowards. Bullies are normally cowards. Because they think they can get away with things, people take advantage of others. Man or woman, I'm not saying it's only men who are the ones who do it. Equal number of women do it. Never accept somebody outraging your space, intruding into what you feel is your space. Whether that space is physical or spiritual or intellectual, whatever it is. And be very honest with yourself. Like I said, none of us is perfect. We're all human beings. And dream big. You want to achieve something, don't say I can only put one step out of this line. There's a white line here. Walk 10 steps. Maybe you'll stumble and fall. Pick yourself up. But don't be afraid to make a mistake or stumble and fall. Life is never even. It's not always happy or always sad. You'll have ups and downs. In my life, I have seen so many ups and downs that, you know, people tell me, oh, you're very strong. I know I'm strong. I don't need others to tell that to me now. About a year ago, in December 2016, I was diagnosed with second stage breast cancer. And at that time, I was really earning a very good reputation for myself as the head of the chairperson of the NCW. I must have asked myself, what on earth is this? Every time I manage to, you know, do well, what is happening? Because cancer treatment is very rough on an individual. And ultimately, you have to deal with it yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. I had an excellent support system. I was diagnosed early, and I made it. So I am one of those lucky ones. I'm not going to say that I was unlucky. There's so many people with cancer nowadays. And the 6 months in and out of hospital, I saw so many people who didn't have the resources that I had, who were also suffering, that I realized that instead of constantly thinking how unlucky I am, I should actually accept how lucky I am. That is what possibly the best way that you can give yourself to move forward. And I may be 60, but I'm far from done. That I know. Maybe to all of you, this white hair and, you know, she's old sort of thing. But to me, I'm nowhere near done. I've still got a long way to go, and I will do it. Now, all of this is very hard-earned confidence. It didn't come so easily. When I was a young girl, I have a very, very pretty elder sister who's 11 years older than me. She did an MSc in biology and zoology both in those days. She was the gold medalist from Madras University, went off to Moscow University to do a biotechnology. And she's the typical Indian woman, very, very efficient at everything. Can cook brilliantly, is a wonderful wife, mother, all of that, and very pretty to boot. Now, there I was, the third child, after the first brilliant daughter and the much wanted son. I was a tomboy. I loved cricket. I loved climbing trees. At the age of 17, I fell out of a guava tree, and my mother whacked me and said, what are you doing in a guava tree? I had no answer for her, but that was me. But I made it. And my sister was, as I said, 11 years older than me. So at that age, I didn't know whom to ask for advice. My father was too busy. He was a very good man and a very good father, but he had very little time to spare for anybody except his work. My mother was, well, poor thing, she had to manage all of us, which itself was a big achievement. And despite the fact that I went to the best schools, the best college, and all of that, despite that, today I stand before you. Being invited for a TEDx talk is not a small thing. So I'm not only, of course, very grateful to the organizers, but I'm very happy to be talking to young people. I find that you all are, you think out of the box. Continue to do that. And please, to end, let me say that dream big. Don't dream small. If you demand something, demand big. Don't ask for little pieces. Ask for more than what you think you deserve. Believe in yourself, you will get there. And don't ever think that hard work is not necessary. All of us have had to slog our asses off. Nothing comes to you easily, but once you've done it on your own, nobody can stop you. Thank you very much. I hope I made some sense.